Good afternoon. Welcome to Practical Parent Education. The topic today is expressing and communicating feelings and emotions. We're glad that you're here, so please use this QR code to sign in so that we know you were here. And this is very important for us. So we hope that you will go ahead and take a few minutes here to sign in. The form is very short and sweet. If you're watching this as a recording after the live event, feel free to pause while you scan that QR code and fill out the short form. My name is Kelly Rawl, and I'm the coordinator for pre-kindergarten and family engagement district-wide. So I want to welcome you again today. This presentation was prepared for you by Practical Parent Education. My team and I have all been officially trained on the content and the presentation of these materials. We hope that you find it useful, but we also hope that you understand that none of us are claiming to be or to have been perfect parents. As a matter of fact, every time I get ready for one of these sessions, I think, man, I wish I knew then what I know now. I can only hope that I would have done it differently if I had had more information. So if you are thinking that we're all perfect parents, then no, that would be incorrect. In fact, I want to congratulate all of you for joining us and learning strategies and ways to express and communicate feelings and emotions with your child. This is very important, even more so today than it has been in the past. So at least it's more talked about today than it has been in the past. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get started. And I hope that if anyone joins us later, that they will just jump right in with us. Take a look at this quote. The world talks to the mind. Parents speak more intimately. They talk to the heart. And I can only hope that that this is true. It makes perfect sense, right? We have so many more outside influences available to our children. And so we know that our children hear, they hear what their peers say, and they hear what's on social media, and they hear what parents say. But what we really hope to help you learn how to do today is how to talk to their heart so that they feel heard and they feel loved. This quote comes from Han Gano. He lived a while back. In fact, he was born way before I was, but clearly, even back then, children listening to what the world has to say was a problem. So today, it's even more of a problem. Our objectives for today are here on the screen. Of course, we're all humans and we all experience a wide variety of emotions, both positive and negative. We hope to be able to explore and help you know your own feelings and emotions. And then we want to help you develop some new skills in helping your child acknowledge, understand, and express his or her feelings and emotions. We also want to help you recognize nonverbal expressions of feelings and emotions. And then finally, we hope to model and communicate healthy expressions of feelings and emotions. So we're going to do a little activity right now. What I'd like for you to do is find a little scrap piece of paper. And in the next 30 seconds, I would like for you to make a list of all of the feeling words or emotion words that you can think of. So I'm going to give you a minute to grab a pen and paper. It doesn't have to be anything great big. It can be the back of an envelope, actually. Okay, I'm going to start my timer. So now it's your job to start writing down all the feeling words that you can think of in 30 minutes. Okay, The timer has started. We're down to 15 seconds. Keep writing. Okay, that's it. Hopefully, you were able to think of a few and jot them down. A few feeling words and words that describe emotions. Now, what I'd like for you to do is look at the pictures that I'm getting ready to share with you. And if you wrote a word that matches that picture or it resembles that picture, similar, then you can make a tally mark. What I want you to do is count how many words you wrote that are also included in these pictures. So here's the first one. This picture is just exuding joy, right? I have some friends on my team who they exude joy. The room is a happier place when they're in it. And so this picture clearly shows a person whose heart is full of joy or happiness. So if you um, put joy or happy, then that's one for you. Here's the next one. Oh, it's twice. This one's a little tricky. Okay, you see the lady in the middle, and everybody has thumbs up all around her. So they could be showing her thumbs up, good job, thumbs up, welcome to the team, thumbs up, um, we're happy you're here. So she is feeling the feeling of acceptance. So they are accepting her into the group. They are accepting her into the team. They are congratulating her on a job well done, and her work is being accepted as good work. So, see, that's a little tricky. That word is acceptance. Now, look at this little guy. He has eyes wide open, right? He's holding his eyes wide open. He sees you, he feels you, and he is aware. Did you know that awareness is actually a feeling? Well, he is aware. Oh, probably everybody got this one. This is angry. Angry. In fact, my father in law eats on a schedule, and when he is having to wait longer than usual for his dinner, then he gets hangry. But in this picture, the guy's just angry. Oh, and everybody probably has this one on their list. This child is just plain sad. Sad, very sad. Oh, look at this one. 9 times out of 10, if you're a grown up, you have felt this feeling. This is the feeling of rejection. Stop, talk to the hand. I don't want to hear it anymore. Go away. Get out of my face. I don't want to marry you. I don't want to see you anymore. I don't want to talk to you anymore. It's flat out rejection. So, most people have seen or felt this before, and it's really tough when you're on the receiving end of that. It can also be tough when you are on the giving end of this. So, just know that that street goes both ways. Oh, and surely we all know this expression. Oh, you remembered my birthday. That's so special. Thank you so much. I can't believe you went to all this trouble for me. I'm so surprised. There, that's the feeling. That's the feeling of surprise. hmm And this is our last one. Little Culkin many years ago when he was just a boy. And he is afraid, he's in pain. I think at this particular point in the movie, he actually had just lathered his hands full of shaving cream or aftershave, and he put it on his face, and it stung, it was painful. And he was like, oh, so this could be fear or it could be pain. Okay. How many did you get? I bet everybody got at least 4. And there's a good reason for that. We'll talk about that in a minute. You know, um, being able to recognize someone's feelings just from their facial expression is called body language. And it's a very important tool to use when you are talking to your children um, or loved ones or students or colleagues. But the better you get at reading their facial expressions, the more intuitive and effective you can be. So, being able to read someone's body language is very helpful. Now, we hear a lot about mental health, emotional health, social emotional health. All of these things are talking about feelings and emotions, and it is in the news right now. It is a hot topic. We know that we have many, many people on the face of the earth, not just in schools, not just our children, but many people all across the world suffer from depression. They have behavior disturbances like self harm or like cutting or um, thoughts of suicide, even attempted suicide, and sadly, successful suicide. Um, Having aggressive behaviors, oppositional, defiant type behaviors. These are all indicative of an underlying issue. We know many of our boys and girls have eating disorders like anorexia or bulimia or just outright not eating, or the opposite of that, and binge eating. Then we know we have students who, because of their mental distress, uh, fall prey to substance abuse. And this is when they use drugs and alcohol to ease their pain, to help it go away, even if it's just for a little while. If you look around our communities, we see more and more psychiatric hospitals, more rehabs for substance abuse, more offices that offer counseling and family services. All of these things just keep increasing. Um, we actually know that about 2/3 of the children who suffer from mental um, distress are receiving help of some kind. And I mean, 2/3 are not receiving the help they need for mental distress. So it is very, very, very important that we continue to keep these topics in the on the hot topics list, not to let them go onto the cold topics list, because our children are suffering for it. It is um, my opinion that in the in the past, um, you know, people would say we're not going to air our dirty laundry in the public, but but that's not the way to handle our feelings and emotions. Um, One of the things that we know about feelings and emotions is, and that mental health in general, it evolves and shapes itself over time. It develops and emerges into a gradual psychological pattern of behavior. And so when we know that, and we know the signs for depression and eating disorders and drug abuse or alcohol abuse, then um, we are better able to um, use this information to help our young people and ourselves. Uh, all of this information is very true for adults as well as the students or your children, your stepchildren, your grandchildren, your nieces and your nephews. It's good for everyone. So the more you know, the more you can grow, right? Okay. So we know um, that different feelings, um, we become more aware of different feelings in our brain and in our heart as we grow up. Just like we have developmental stages of development, child development, we also have um, developmental milestones for feelings and emotions. So we're going to take a look at this handout real quick. Maybe. Hmm. Okay. So since that doesn't seem to be working, then we are going to go to um, this folder. At the end of this presentation, I'm going to give you um, a copy of all of these things. I'm going to give you the link to the folder so that you have it ready or you have access to it. Okay, this is exactly what I was looking for. I hope that you can see this. But this is a chart that shows us when students are able to express and communicate feelings and emotions, when they arrive or when they become available in the brain. Okay, so take a look. Um, at birth, children are born with the feelings of pleasure, distress, and surprise. They're not the blank, emotionless slates that past generations thought they were. They actually have emotions when they're born. So these are the emotions of pleasure, distress, and surprise. And we know this is true because we know a happy baby when we see it, and we know an unhappy baby when we see it, and we know when they're surprised. Um, you don't have to look at the memes these days to be able to visualize a baby that was surprised. And you probably remember these days from when your child was just a wee infant. Uh, about 6 to 8 weeks, the feeling of joy comes into play. And then 3 to 4 months, the feelings of anger come into play. And we see that. I mean, we know that when they're hungry, when they don't get what they want, they get angry and they cry and they scream. But this is normal because um, they've just learned or received this feeling of anger in their brain. Then between 6 and 9 months, they get the feelings of sadness and fear. And we all know this stage of infant development because uh, this is when separation anxiety comes into play. So when you go to drop your child off at the daycare, uh, they often will cling to mom or dad or whoever is dropping the child off at daycare because they don't want to go away. They want to stay with their mommy and their daddy or their grandma. So these are all things that we know happen in a child's brain. Then 12 to 18 months, tenderness and affection. They do start to give you kisses more often and they give you hugs and they tell you they love you and those kinds of things. Then around 18 months, there's the feeling of shame. And we see that when they know they've done something wrong and they stand there and they hold their head down and they're very sorry and they're ashamed. Then about 2 years, pride gets there. That's a happy feeling, isn't it? They're very proud about who they are. They're proud about their when they have a new toy. They're proud when they sleep in a big boy bed. They're very proud. Then at 3 to 4 years, we see that children start to feel guilt. Um, and sometimes we force that feeling of guilt on them, which is one of the things that I believe I might have done when I was an adult. When I was a parent, when my children were little. I just didn't know what the ramifications were. Then around 5 and 6, they start to get the feelings of social emotions, insecurity, humility, envy, the feeling of belonging somewhere, belonging to a club or um, a troop, a Girl Scout troop or a Cub Scout um, troop. You know, those feelings of confidence and belonging, or the opposite, insecurity or jealousy. Um, those all come into play at the early ages of 5 and 6. And then when they get to be teenagers and then they're in those adolescent years, that's when the feelings of romantic passion and then brooding and philosophical feelings come into play. And so um, there are so many more emotions that come into play at adolescence. But what we realize is that um, babies aren't born with this romantic passion and the ability to think philosophically. But when they are born with the feelings of pleasure and distress and surprise. Okay? So, going back to our presentation, we know when the feelings arrive, but how we express our feelings often looks different at different stages of life. Sometimes it actually looks the same, I'll admit, because a teenager can act like a 4-year old. We've all seen it. Um, so when children start expressing their feelings, they often don't have the words they need, they don't have the vocabulary. And so how they express their feelings is not always well received. And so hopefully we can help you work with your kiddos on how to recognize and address those feelings. Something else that is important is how you respond or how you react to those feelings, because um, those that's also very important, and it kind of um, creates a path for the development of your child's feelings. So a couple of different things come into play there. So here are 4 different basic feelings. Happiness, you can probably say them with me. Sadness, um, fear, and anger. All of the more complicated feelings that we know about fit into these 4 basic categories. They're related in some way. So take a look at the facial expressions. Do you notice which part of the face is a huge indicator of how this um, feeling of expression is being communicated? What part of the face helps us know that? Oh, yes, of course. The mouth does. Because we know that a smile is an upside down frown. And we know that um, we know what an angry mouth looks like. We know what a scared mouth looks like. So that's true. And if you said the eyebrows, yes, that's very true. You can tell what all of these feelings are just by looking at the eyebrows. So telling. It's so telling. So, since children are not very verbal about their feelings, we as parents and teachers need to look for signals or patterns of emotional expression. If we're truly going to communicate with children in a meaningful way, we need to speak their language about feelings and emotions. So, think about it. How were feelings and emotions discussed in your family of origin, the family you grew up with? How were feelings and feelings and emotions expressed? Were you allowed to express your feelings? Were you taught to keep your feelings to yourself? That we don't air our dirty laundry in public keeps coming to my mind. Um, there's even a country and western song that comes to my mind, and it talks about this ain't my mama's broken heart. So, in the song, the girl's heart is broken and she's devastated, and sometimes she wants revenge, and sometimes she just wants to lash out, and sometimes she just wants to curl up in a ball and cry, and she doesn't want to go anywhere. And um, so then this is a not your mama's broken heart, because mama says, get up, get yourself dressed, put your makeup on, do your hair, and get on with your life. But the girl, she's going to deal with these emotions. And she says, this ain't your mama's broken heart. So, anyway, just an interesting correlation there. So, we know that emotions can be expressed in these three different ways. Suppression is one of them. Um, I'm going to back up because one of the things that I wanted to share with you is an activity. And I would demonstrate it for you, but I don't happen to have a bucket of water and 20 ping pong balls. But if we were in person, that's what I would try to do. So I want you to think about 20 ping pong balls, okay? And if you were going to label each of those ping pong balls, you could label them with different ways to handle emotions, right? So some of them you would use a black marker and you would label them, you would write poor grades on one, fighting on another one, increased sibling rivalry on the other one, lying, stealing. Each of these goes on a separate ping pong ball. Behavior problems in school, bullying, and there are several more on the list. But then there would also be a few balls that you label with a red marker: drugs, alcohol, anorexia, bulimia, depression, suicide, those kinds of things. Now, if I put one ball in the bucket of water, and I asked one of you to hold that ball underwater, that wouldn't be any problem, right? But then if I drop another one in there, and then I drop another one, each time I drop a ping pong ball into the water, it gets harder and harder to hold them all underwater at the same time. Because when we're holding them underwater, that's like suppressing our feelings. Okay. But after about the, I don't know, sixth, seventh, eighth ping pong ball, then you start to lose control of the ping pong balls. And so the more ping pong balls that you try to push underwater, then the other ones pop back up. Can you picture this in your head? I tried to find a video online, and it really was not easy to find one. So just picture this: a person trying to hold down 20 ping pong balls in a bucket, and you can only use your two hands to keep the balls underwater. And it really is impossible because ping pong balls float, they don't want to stay underwater. Emotions don't want to stay suppressed. They are going to pop up, and they likely will pop up in multiples at the same time. So, um, can you see how this visual of ping pong balls in a bucket of water actually um, demonstrate how our feelings build up inside of us when they're suppressed? Okay. So, suppression is one of the ways that we actually do express our feelings. Um, we try to hold them in so long, eventually they emerge in one form or another. One form or another. Um, then there's verbalization. Children don't always understand their feelings well enough to express them. They may not have the communication skills to express how they feel. This is true of really young children, but it's also true of boys and girls who are on the autism spectrum or who are very shy. Um, there are lots of reasons why a child won't be able to understand, uh, won't be able to express their or verbalize their emotions and their feelings. Then acting out. Children usually express their emotions behaviorally. Frequently, these behaviors are not related to the source of the problem. So, really mad at my mom and stomp at the door, or I slam the car door when I get out, when she's dropping me off at school, and I run into uh, my friend on the sidewalk, and I'm like, get out of my way. Am I really mad at my friend? Do I really think she was in my way? No, I'm still mad at my mom, but I'm taking it out on my friend. So there, this is just one example of how children express their emotions behaviorally. But again, it could come out in other ways. It could come out in um, fighting or uh, eating or not eating or overeating. It could come out in a lot of ways. So acting out looks different for different children. So there are different ways to suppress our feelings. Sometimes we store them all in a tub and put them away. They're just like locked up in a file cabinet, right? Then other ways, our brain can be so full of feelings and emotion that if you add one more, it's just like a drop in the bucket. Okay. And it ripples and it runs into the other emotions and it just gets bigger and bigger as it grows because we're not dealing with it. And then all these different colored marbles or candies in this little jar that you see here, those are feelings and emotions that we just keep bottled up inside of us. But instead of dealing with them and letting go of them, then what we're actually doing is just holding them all inside until some point where there's no more room for any more feelings or emotions. So when you think about emotions, and I'm going to go back to this one, when you think about how children express or handle their emotions, which one of these do you think is the most dangerous one? You might think acting out is the most dangerous one because it could lead to anything from fighting to arguing to self harm. However, suppressing your emotions is the most dangerous one. Um, Acting out inappropriately may not be acceptable, but at least it's visible evidence that something is wrong. It gives us a place to start to help our children work through their issues and their feelings. But with suppression, it's extreme. You have to be extremely intuitive to identify what the feelings are down below. It's very subtle. The hints are very subtle, and when feelings are suppressed, they eventually emerge, but mostly in unhealthy ways. So children do not always understand the feelings they are experiencing, much less how to express them verbally. So frequently they don't have the vocabulary to talk about how they're feeling. But the most common expression of feelings for children is through their actions and their behaviors. Often these behaviors are not related to the source of the problem, like we talked about a minute ago. Um, as adults, though, we should be able to help children channel their behaviors into healthy responses. So, our role as parents and teachers is to help children handle their feelings by first helping them understand and identify their own emotions and feelings and model healthy ways of expressing emotions and feelings. We need to help children identify and understand and express their feelings in a healthy way. The expression of emotions is a very individual adaptation, and it will vary among family members. So, how I express my feelings is very different from how my husband expresses his. you can you can surely think about your own family members and say the same thing. So, one thing that's really important is being able to understand that there are uh, how we respond to our child's feelings and emotions is very important. Some of them can have a very negative impact. And when you look at these, don't look at this and go, oh my gosh, my child's doomed because I didn't know this. And this is how I am. I can look at this and say, I could say I denied my child's feelings. No, you don't hate your brother. I know you don't like him very much like right now, but you don't hate him. That's a very strong word. When you grow up, you're really going to start liking each other. But, that's a few years down the road. So, no, you don't hate them. Uh, oh, don't worry, you'll have forgotten about it by tomorrow. It's not even important. So now I'm minimizing. Yes, I did that. I denied. I minimized. Or contradicting their feelings. There isn't any such thing as a monster or um, you shouldn't feel that way. It's not a big deal. And that's kind of minimizing, but um, but discounting how they feel is contradicting them. And then ignoring them, acting like it doesn't exist. Oh, get over your crying. It's not a big deal. And then rescuing. Well, you didn't want to go to that silly old party anyway. We'll just have our own party at McDonald's. Okay, so that's rescuing you. And it seems like a positive way to handle it. But really, rescuing our children can be the most damaging of all. It does not allow children to experience the process of disappointment and loss. Denial of this experience can have serious consequences as children grow older. The other responses send messages to children parents really don't understand or care, that they really don't understand or care about how they feel. So, what you can do is be a role model for your children. Express your own feelings and emotions and deal with them in a healthy way. And think out loud while you're doing it so your child sees and hears you dealing with your feelings and emotions. Then be available to your child. Spend time with them one on one. Use eye contact. Send messages that show that you care how they feel. Listen and watch for subtle messages from your children. They're there. We just have to be open and listen to it. And then listen reflectively. We'll talk more about what that means, but um, identify how you think the child feels and then give that feeling a name. Use statements, not questions. So, reflective listening. Oh, I hear you saying that. It makes you really sad uh, that your hamster died. You know, I understand how that feels. I'm sad too. So now you're giving them a feeling. You're letting them know that you understand how they feel, that you might even feel the same way, and that it's okay. And then you want to help your child discover his or her own personal expressions for releasing their feelings and emotions. I'll tell you what, when I was in college, when I was really mad about something, I hit the tennis court because nothing felt better than to slam that tennis ball across the net. And I would just do it over and over and over again. And sometimes people didn't want to play tennis with me anymore because they had to make sure I wasn't mad before I got on the court. So, anyway, help them find uh, healthy ways to express and release their feelings and emotions. So, remember, I told you we were going to talk about reflective listening. So, I'm going to open this handout for us to look at. And this is in that folder that I'm going to give the link to you later. But reflective listening looks different at different age levels. So when you look at this, if you have a pre-K student or a kindergarten student, then it might look like this. But then if you have an elementary age student, then here are some things you can practice doing. And then there's adolescence. Okay, so the paragraph at the top is the same for all of them. When children come to us with physical hurts, it's easy to reach for the bandages. With emotional hurts, though, it's not quite so simple. Unintentionally, we often react by ignoring, denying, or minimizing children's feelings. This reaction leaves children with the feeling that they are not being heard or understood. By responding with reflective statements, we let children we do care and we are here if they need to talk. Reflective responses opens the door to good conversation. Ignoring, denying, or minimizing feelings closes the door. So, this is a kind of a thinking activity, and I'll just talk you through a couple of examples at each level. So, you read the statement, and then you write a closed door statement and an open door statement. So you can see the difference. Let's try it. I don't want to go to bed. I want to stay up with you, Mommy. Okay. We've probably all heard that before. Yes. Okay. Uh, a closed door statement might be something along the lines of, I don't really care what you want. You're going to bed. Okay. That's a closed door statement. End of conversation. It's not negotiable. You're going to bed. And then another one, but an open door statement might be, I understand you don't want to go to bed. You might not be sleepy right now, but when you get all snuggled under the covers, then you might start to feel sleepy. I used to feel like that when I was a little girl. I didn't want to go to bed. So I really do understand. We can talk about it tomorrow, and maybe on the weekend, we can stay up a little bit later than usual. But this is a school night, so we're going to go to bed on time. And I have to stay up and do some chores, so you're going to go to bed now. See, the end result is the same with the open door statement and the closed door statement. The child's going to bed either way. But with the open door statement, the child knows that there's something to look forward to, and they know that they can talk about it with their mom. Okay? So let's think about this now. Remember, this top paragraph is the same for all of them. I think this is funny because in statement number 1, they use the name Kelly, and that's my name. So if your child said, Kelly and I were having a great time, and then Sandy came over and they just ignored me. Okay. So your child might be feeling that feeling of rejection. Remember, we saw that picture earlier. But A closed door statement might sound like this: uh, Don't worry about it, honey. You can play with her tomorrow. Um, don't worry about it, honey. Um, they're not good enough for you to be friends with. You can find better friends. An open door statement might be something like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. That must have um, made you feel terrible. It feels terrible when people ignore you. I hate it when people ignore me." So then you're saying, "I hear that you're feeling ignored, and um, and that's okay." Then here's a middle school example. "I challenged Randy for the first chair in band today, and I lost." So the feeling that your child might be experiencing right now is sadness, or they might even be mad. It all depends on how they're taking it. And a closed door statement might be, "Oh, well, I guess you better try harder next time." But an open door statement might sound like, uh, "It's pretty risky to challenge somebody for first chair. Um, I bet that made you feel um, really sad and maybe even a little mad. I understand that." Hmm. So, see, you're acknowledging their feelings and you're identifying them, and you're not calling them good or bad. So, here's an adolescent one. "I hate my teacher. She piles on the homework every weekend. Every weekend." A closed door response might be, "It really doesn't matter if you hate your teacher or not. You still have to do the homework." Okay. Um, an open door statement might be something like, "Gosh, it's really frustrating to have homework every weekend. I understand that. Kind of makes you mad, doesn't it?" Oh, in reflective listening, you're just identifying and acknowledging what they said. You're not asking them a question. Everything we talked about, or everything I talked about, all of these examples are statements, not questions. That's very important. Okay. So that's reflective listening. And it is really good for you to practice reflective listening. "Oh, I heard you say that it makes you really mad when," let's see, "it makes you really mad when I don't give you enough time to brush your hair at night." So just remember, those are statements, and what you're saying is reflecting back how they feel, and it's giving them the respect and the acceptance that you hear their feelings and you understand them. Okay. Now on this slide, what you see are some different strategies or session resources that we talked about today. So when we talked about suppressing emotions, I'm going to have to fix that link. It seems to be this view. I'm going to go back over here. When we talked about suppressing emotions, there's the ping pong activity that I was telling you about. So yes, um, you can read that and get a better understanding of what I was trying to describe. Here's the reflective listening that we just looked at. Now, here's something new that we haven't talked about. It's a parent questionnaire. So this says, oh, pardon me. One way to know if we were really communicating with our children on an emotional level is to stop and ask ourselves how much we really know about what they are thinking or feeling. So, if we were together, I'd give you an index card and ask you to focus on one of your children and answer the following questions. Okay? After the questionnaire was completed, then we would talk about it and get your reactions from it. So, let's look at the questions. What is your child's most prized possession? With which extended relative does your child feel most comfortable? In what experiences or tasks does your child feel most successful? What are they good at? Who, outside the immediate family, would your child turn to with a serious problem? It doesn't have to be an adult. What makes your child sad? What makes your child truly happy? What does your child find most stressful in life? What issue or topic does your child find most difficult to talk about? Name 2 things your child is afraid of, or 2 things that make your child angry. What would your child say he wants most when he's an adult? And how does your child most like to spend time with the family? So, this is really a good activity for you to think about with your children, because what it's really going to tell you is how much do you know about what your child thinks and feels about different things. And I mean, as I read that and I think about my granddaughter, I think I need to talk with her a little more. Okay, let's go back. And remember, we talked about when feelings arrive. So here's that chart that I was sharing with you earlier. But if we go back here to this one, recognizing stress or depression in children, this is very important. So you have to, as a parent, you need to be able to notice and recognize signs of stress and depression in your kids. So here are some lists of possible signs of depression in children. Notice that these are changes in a child's normal behavior. When there are changes in a child's behavior, you should take notice and offer support. If behavior changes persist or become worse, we want to encourage you to seek professional help. My granddaughter lives with us, and we're walking that path right now. Some common signs of stress in children is the inability to concentrate, excessive demands for attention, unusual withdrawal or isolation, increase in fears, heightened sibling or peer bickering, the inability to sleep, being angry all the time, throwing temper tantrums, developing nervous habits, being agitated. Maybe they never wet the bed before, but now they do. Being depressed. And in young children, you see sometimes that they will regress, their behavior will regress. So here are some signs of depression in children. Some of them are very similar, and then some of they're different. So, like changes in personal habits, like grooming, dress, housekeeping, things like that. So, if your child used to take great pride in their personal appearance, and now they don't care about how they look, then that's something to take note of and address. Dig a little deeper. loss of interest in activities that once gave them pleasure. Of course, if they're starting to use alcohol, marijuana, or other drugs, or if they start talking about death and dying, even in a joking way, if they start withdrawing from friends and family, or if they start moping around the house, these are all very common signs of depression. So think about your children and maybe think about how they used to be in comparison to how they are now. Watch for those changes. And the these signs of stress are important because when you see those signs first, if you can address them and deal with them in a healthy way, then your child might not end up being depressed. So these are like warning signs to something bigger and deeper. So this is very important, and I hope you find this list helpful because not everybody knows these things, and so we want to share that resource with you. So again, my name is Kelly Rawl, and I am the coordinator for pre-K and district-wide family engagement. This other beautiful young lady is Diana Cortez. She is my secretary, and I appreciate her very, very much. Together, we make a great team. The family engagement department actually has other team members. We have Fatina, who speaks Arabic, and Layla, who also speaks Arabic. Then we have Gregoria and Glenda, who both speak Spanish. And then finally, we have Bijou, who speaks French. So our team is a little bigger than just me and Diana. But if you need help with anything, we should be the first people that you reach out to. We can help connect you with resources. We can help you find strategies. But if we don't know the answer or we don't think we can help, then we know people who can help. So don't hesitate to reach out to us. I also want to share these links with you. If you have not already done so, please go to the Parent Academy guestbook and sign in. Because your attendance or participation in our presentations is very important. This link goes to our folder where we have all of the resources and handouts for today's presentation. This link goes to our family engagement website, which is on the HEBISD website. Then the Parent Academy website is on the HEBISD Family Engagement website. And the Parent Academy calendar is on the Parent Academy website. So it all starts with the HEBISD website, where you go under Parents and Students, and you click on the Family Engagement under Departments. Then you can click on Parent Academy from there, and the calendar of events from there. So we hope to see you again at a future Family Engagement or Parent Academy event. Look for my SMORE newsletters that I send out every month. It's the Family Engagement Update. And please, if you have any questions about the information on the updates, don't hesitate to reach out and give me a call or send me an email. I'm going to say goodnight now, and I hope that you all have a very happy rest of the school year, and that we will see you again very soon. Thank you so much.